Hi, my name is Sophia Manival, and I'm going to be talking about the growing population in India. A bit of an overview. India is the most populous nation of 1.4 billion people, and a sixth of the world's population lives in India. And this passes China according to projections by the United Nations, or it will pass China by 2025. Because of the overpopulation, there are food shortages, environmental destruction, packed trains and cars, etc. For decades, public health campaigns were ran to slow down growth, including sterilization of men and women. People believe that large amounts of young people that are being born will be crucial for economic growth. So to start, I'll talk about the causes of this overpopulation and how it got this way. So, for a while, the birth rate has been higher than the death rate, and fertility rates are currently rising due to the population policies and measures falling through. Also, early marriage is prevalent in the society. Poverty is another big one. More members in a family equals more income. Children are also typically needed to look after members of old age in the family. And there's kind of a lack of literacy and education on contraceptives and birth control, which obviously leads to more children being born. There's a lot of illegal migration, and there's tons of cultural pressure on parents to keep having children until a male is born into the family. So obviously there's a lot of negative effects of overpopulation, including large unemployment rates because it's way harder to employ that many people. There's lots of pressure on development of facilities there. There's a lack of transportation, communication, housing, education, health care, and more. The houses are overcrowded and the traffic is always busy. Land, forests, water sources, and natural resources are typically overexploited, which poses a major threat to the ecosystems and eventually can cause potential shortage of water and food. Inflation, because the cost of materials and production increases when population does, and there tends to be unequal income in these situations. On to the effects. Overpopulation has many negative effects on health. Overpopulation causes more polluted drinking water and air pollution from the amount of vehicles that are needed. Health problems like asthma, lung cancer, congestion, respiratory, and cardiovascular disease is very common. As population becomes increasingly larger and denser, airborne diseases are more easily spread, and this can include tuberculosis, malaria, cholera, and dengue fever. While overpopulation is a huge issue and will continue to be a huge issue, it can be controlled, and this includes women not being confined to just working in their houses, and giving them access to education and jobs. Also, government allowing adults and children to pursue education for free, education as well as education on contraceptives and free distribution of these contraceptives, encouraging males to get sterilized as a form of birth control, increase in access to health centers for individuals and free health care, and just more health or family planning, and help from the government on that family planning. So China was one of the countries that took action on overpopulation. So the question is, can India do the same? Basically, India implemented the world's first national family planning program in 1952, and China's population almost doubled between 1950 and 1980, which did lead to their one-child policy. Both were faced with an aging population, and even after China lifted this policy and allowed for 2 and eventually 3 children, birth rates still remained low. And while the policies helped to lower overpopulation, they came with a cost and weren't completely effective because they were faced with that aging population and there were less young people. So for the end of my presentation, I just included this graph because I think it's really interesting to see the amount of growth from the last about 70 years and how small the population was in comparison to how it is projected to be in 2025. So yeah. These are all my sources, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.